Good afternoon and welcome to You and Your Business with me, Alec Drew, on 103.2 Dublin City FM. Each week, I invite an expert from the world of business to share their knowledge, insights and tips to help you with your business challenges. If there's a topic you would like covered, or if you feel you can make a contribution, please email me at yourbusiness@dublincityfm.ie, and perhaps we'll be having a chat here one day soon. My guest today is I'm already tongue-tied already with all of this, but he's a holistic career and business coach. My goodness, there's a mouthful. Holistic career and business coach, is a marathon runner, and is also a radio show host as well. So he'll be giving me lessons on how not to tie my tongue up on these things later. I'm delighted to welcome Patrick Mercy to the You and Your Business studio. Hi, Patrick.
I'm really good, Alec. Thanks for having me over.
No, well, that's grand. You see, look at the effect you've had on me already. I'm already losing the power of English and any other language by the sound of it. As you know, I take everybody back to the sort of last year in school, 17, 18. Sort of what were you thinking? Were you the person who wanted to travel? Were you the academic? Were you the business person? What was going through your mind?
I wasn't thinking that much, to be honest with you.
Okay, fair enough.
At that stage in my life, see, throughout school, secondary, etc., I was very disruptive as a child.
Oh.
So I was, the guy that they put in the corner. So that, did they do that here as well? Because I was in Belgium.
Of course they did.
Yeah. So I was the guy in the corner. Actually, at one stage, my dad was called into the school because the teacher said he'd teach me a lesson. So he let me talk to the fellow beside me for a whole hour and then pulled me in front of the class and said, "Patrick, give me a resume of what we spoke about for the last hour." And I did, letter by letter, what he talked about for the last hour.
Right.
I was then, as Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory, I don't know if you that TV series would say.
Yes, we do, yes.
My mother got me tested, right? And they came up with the fact that I was kind of, now they call it genius, but like very clever, that I was in the top 1%, IIQ, etc. So that's why I was disruptive, because I was bored.
Right.
That was it. So, but that was until late, and nobody took any notice of that. I was in a Christian Brother school in Belgium, and they did nothing with that information.
No.
No, absolutely nothing. So I had a very disrupted time in school. Loving parents, fantastic parents, couldn't love me more. But there was that disruptive influence. Second thing is, I had my growth spurt later in life, and I was clever, so I was bullied in school, on top of all that and all that kind of stuff. So it led to me at 17, 18, I didn't know who I was, where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. But because I was clever, I was pushed to an academic career.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. So they didn't listen to the experts, so pushed you out. Okay. So academia, you're pushed out into that. What are you going to take on, and how did that work out for you?
I signed up, and we don't have a leaving cert in Belgium, but we do have a similar kind of thing,
sure,
which qualified me to do economics and statistics at the University of Brussels, so the Flemish University of Brussels. I spent 3 years there, still bored, passing exams that I needed to pass, that I wanted to pass, subjects I was interested in, like philosophy, etc., passing them with flying colors, and then things I wasn't interested in, flunking them, and partying for 3 years, as nobody else but students can, right?
Yes, of course.
I was in all kinds of brats and what have you, and that kind of stuff. So I didn't make anything out of that. So it was 3. They weren't wasted years, because no years in your life are wasted, but they could be perceived to be that.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's always lessons to be picked up from it and experiences. So, okay, you've done that for 3 years. What's next on the horizon for you?
Well, then there was at the time, so we're speaking about 88, 89. There was compulsory military service in that. So I was whisked off. And because I was athletically fit, I got pushed into a combat unit.
Right.
Which was Tweede Regiment Lanciers, which is a tank regiment, which were based in Leopoldsburg near the Belgian-German border for 1 year.
I mean, that must have been interesting. So, I mean, in school you were disruptive. Certainly you got bored easily, which suggested that you needed to explore and have your own freedom. And suddenly you find yourself in a very sort of disciplined company, to say the least.
No, absolutely disciplined. But what I've learned since, now I know, I'm an outdoors person, right?
Right.
As part of who I am. So like I spend 3 to 4 hours a day outdoors, even now, right? That could be meeting clients, it could be whatever. But I was out there 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, matter of speech. So that kind of balanced everything off. And I was also part of the running group. So there was 600 to 800 people in our barracks, right?
Right.
In the tank regiment. And the top 30, there was a race every month, and the top 30 were the running team. So you didn't have to clean in the morning, you got to go training in the morning, right? Before your day duties, etc.
Yeah.
So there was a sort of freedom with the discipline, the freedom for me to be part of the running club, to be outdoors, what I love doing, to be physically active. And that probably balanced itself out, because I had an absolute blast of a year in the army.
Now, that's interesting. I mean, you were talking about school and the sort of whole bullying area of that. And now we're in the army, where if there was going to be bullying, that's a good place to pick it up. But what sort of negated that for you, or how did that not show itself?
The fact that I was, I'm just not even bragging about myself. I was a really good soldier. I'm physically fit. I'm athletic. I know I was good on the battlefield. I was good in the exercises, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And when you get into an army unit like that, of people who are conscripted, you realize very quickly you're as strong as the weakest link. So there was 12 of us in this particular unit, and the 12 of us looked after each other as if we were 12 brothers.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
And that must have been a nice experience for me from leaving school to have that sort of camaraderie with people, like-minded people.
Absolutely, because at the end of my year, I had such a great time, and they realized that, and they're always looking for recruits. They actually offered me a job in the army. What the pay was absolutely shocking. So I felt disinclined to acquiesce to their request, to put it quite.
All right, you're back out in Civvy Street again. What's on your mind, or where are you heading off to work or do anything?
Stayed in Brussels. It's a bit of a mishmash of things. There was no structure in my life. Right. I fell back from the structure of the army, basically onto the streets without structure.
Right.
Having not done the university degree, having being clever but not pursuing that, having not had the wherewithal to rediscover my creativity and do something with that, you end up working in the service industry. Ended up working in bars, in fast food restaurants, in a bookshop, so that's kind of where my life went for a couple of years into that. And because that wasn't really my potential, and it wasn't me, and it wasn't my best, well, it's not my best self, but I wasn't being myself. Yeah. And that then descended into drinking and smoking and weed and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And if you're just joining us now, you're listening to You and Your Business with me, Alec, on 103.2 Dublin City FM, where my studio guest today is Patrick Mercy. And we're just talking with Patrick about having left a sort of disciplined life of the army to now find yourself sort of, I suppose, moving from bar to bar in terms of jobs and things like that, and then descending into developing some other problems as well. How did you cope with that? I mean, that must have been a real challenge.
But yes and no, because it becomes a routine.
Sure.
Yeah. So if you're in the bar industry, there was a legislation in Belgium where at the time every bar had to close 1 day a week. So you were only allowed to open 6 days. So I had the same day off every week. So that's a routine.
Right.
And then the other 6 days you're working. So that's a routine, not the whole day. And then out of that, you meet with your friends to go for drinks, because you meet a lot of people in the bar industry that like to go for a drink.
Yes, of course.
So in the dysfunction, there's a routine, if you know what I mean. And it's the routine that, if you can call it a coping mechanism, that's kind of what it becomes.
And when do you find that the light comes on, that you discover, well, this is not just having a good time, that in fact it's not a great time, and I've got a problem here?
And I didn't so as much discover actually that I have a problem. I knew this wasn't the way, but there was just no way out. In the middle of those 5 years, I actually spent 6 months, I ran away from it all.
Right.
And ended up nearly semi-voluntarily ending up homeless.
Wow. Wow. And
sleeping rough in Brussels. Now, Brussels is a big city. There'll be 2 million people plus in it during a working day. So you can disappear in cities like that, right? So, but that was a 6-month period. So I knew this wasn't the life, but I just didn't know how to get out.
Right, right.
So
And what sort of was there a turning point, a defining moment that sort of the light came on, or was it more a gradual sort of realization?
no, there was one particular moment, and she loved me for that. I was actually working in a bar, and there was two people sitting in front of me. I asked them, I didn't want to sit there with the two of them for another 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I rang the bar around the corner and ordered them 2 free pints. Well, we drink in glasses in Belgium, but like 2 free beers. I told them there was 2 free beers around the corner in the pub. They left swiftly. I closed the bar, went around the corner to settle up the bill, had a beer myself. It was a friend of mine I could see when I came in, was sitting down with 2 women and they were speaking English.
Right.
I've always had a thing for languages. I'm actually learning Spanish now.
Right.
And so I said to him, can I join? And one of the two, they were both Irish women. And one of those 2 women is now my wife. So the meeting her was the catalyst to move away from where I was.
Right. So a positive influence in your life came in a bar of all places.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Isn't it ironic?
Isn't it just? So what was next then? Okay, so we're I won't say the road to recovery, but we'll talk about a road to somewhere better.
Yeah, so we had a kind of long distance relationship for a while, went on holidays together for 2 weeks, decided to do that.
Yeah.
Decided that we were getting all along very well, and then planned, it's a long story, keep it short. I eventually decided to move to Ireland and to move in together.
Oh,
That's
fantastic.
what we did. Yeah, so I moved, and she was working in Limerick at the time. So we moved into Limerick City, and that was December 94. Actually, I landed in Shannon Airport on the 22nd of December 94. I just think
just in time for Christmas. Perfect.
Yes.
All right, so this was going to be a cultural change for you, but again, the good news is you have the language, which is a great starting point. And how did you find yourself acclimatizing to sort of the Irish way of life?
It took a while. It took a while because like there's different mannerisms, and where I come from in Belgium, in the Netherlands, and Germany, we're quite direct.
Right.
So I discovered quickly that wasn't really the preferred way of communication in Ireland when I arrived in 94, Alec, right? Where you come into your beloved mother-in-law's house for the first time, you meet the woman that says, can I make you a cup of tea? And you go, no, I'll have a coffee. But that's not the way to communicate, right? So that was one thing. We're also quite anal with time in Belgium. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I had to adapt to that as well here. Usually when people don't turn up at 10:05 when we have a 10 o'clock, I'm gone. And then people got upset with me saying like, well, you weren't even there. And I said, yeah, but I was on time. Do you know, that kind of thing? So there's small things that I needed to adapt to and things that were different. I remember the first time I was dropped off by my now wife at the time in a place called Atlaca in County Limerick, which is a tiny crossroads village. Right. She had to do some business in Bruff. She was dropping me off. She said, there's a bar, have a beer. I arrive in the bar. I was just after arriving. I spoke English already when I arrived, right? And the woman was the only person in the bar. The woman comes from behind the bar, from behind the kitchen, stands at the bar, looks at me, turns around and walks away without saying a word.
Right.
Then her husband comes and said, like, who are you? Not, what can I do for you? Do you want to drink? And I was like, who are you? So I had to explain myself. I said, well, I'm actually, I live in Limerick, but like my wife dropped me off. And yeah, where are you from? And I went like, okay, well, I said, like, I'm from Brussels. If I said the village I was from, he wouldn't gonna know. And I said I'm from Belgium, and he went like, where's that? Right? This is 94, right? It's different. So, and then I said Brussels, and he went, okay, is that Catholic or Protestant? This is the actual conversation, right? And I said, well, it's predominantly Catholic. Okay, sit yourself down there. I'll bring you a drink. He didn't even ask me what I wanted to drink. It was Guinness or Guinness, right? And he brought me, the Independent. He said, that's a paper from here. You should read this. So it was kind of adapting to that. Being a foreigner was kind of exotic still at the time in Ireland, you know. Well,
I thought that would have suited you. You said you were sort of very direct speaking. You've now found your counterpart in a bar.
It was a good story. It's a good story.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. Obviously, you're going to have to get some work to kind of tide you over. So what was on your mind?
And there was a bit of a recession going on at the time when I arrived here. So I've been through 2 or 3 since I moved to Ireland. And the first job I could get was a job that I used to, back in the service industry, it was a forecourt of a petrol station.
All right.
In Limerick. I don't know if you remember, if people remember, but there used to be people on forecourts filling your car for you.
The good old days, we call those, yeah.
Yeah. So that was me. That was my first job in Limerick, was like on the forecourt in a petrol station. That's it. So one day, I love telling stories, Alec. I hope you don't mind.
No, perfect. Listen, good interviews are made of good stories.
I was standing on the forecourt, and these people, I could see they were not local. They were actually a couple from France. They were traveling through Ireland. They needed petrol. They stopped at the petrol station. And I started conversing with them in French, because it's one of the languages I speak, being Belgian. And a guy with the car behind, believe it or not, was working for Foss at the time. I don't know, they're called Solace now, I think.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But most people, I think, would be familiar with Foss.
And he ran a Foss training center for a computer company who were putting together a call center where they needed languages. So he actually came over to me on the forecourt and said, like, if I put you in the Foss training center, you only have to stay for 2 weeks. I have a job for you in a call center.
Right.
So that's what happened. And I ended up working in the call center for AST Computers in Limerick. AST were one of the top manufacturers at the time.
Right.
AST Computers. So I worked on the helpline for them. This was kind of the first time I was into structured employment, you know.
Right.
And I thrived in that, because I was able to use my creativity, because I was dealing with customers in German, in Dutch, in French, in English, flicking from language to language, from call to call. And that's the creativity that I needed, and the structure. So I was quickly promoted in that company a few times.
Wow. You know, this is what I always love about meeting people. You never know where these stories are going to take you, you know, from pumping petrol to running a multilingual call center.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, it's these serendipities in life where people just turn up at the right moments, you know, or are they meant to turn up there? I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. And if you're just joining us now, you're listening to You and Your Business with me, Alec Drew, on 103.2 Dublin City FM, where my studio guest today is Patrick Mercy. All right, Patrick, so you were there, and then you were to go working for another company as well, down in Limerick, was it?
Yeah, well, actually, AST Computers got bought out by Samsung.
All right.
So I ended up working for Samsung for a couple of years. It was the same company, same job, same site, same people, like, you know, just a different company name, with obviously different way of working, you know. We found soon, and this is not having a go at anyone, but these people used to come into the plant at 4 a.m. and leave at like 10 o'clock at night. And you used to have the same output as we did from 9 to 5. You know, those kind of yeah. But they were there, you see. So it was a different kind of culture of doing business. And at the time, a company called Cable and Wireless, which is a telecommunications company, we're thinking of setting up a new assure and provide center in Shannon, near Shannon Airport.
Right.
And I got headhunted by a recruitment company for them. I remember the interview was 4.5 hours long.
Wow.
Role playing and all that kind of stuff. There was role playing in groups and, like, you know, that kind of. There was a very serious recruitment process. And I got hired together with a German guy, an English guy.
Right.
Dermot Lydon and Jennifer Lindberg, who was from Stockholm in Sweden, to set up the Assure and Provide Center for Cable and Wireless. Empty shell of a building. And within 6 months, there was 150 people working there, running an Assure and Provide Center for Cable and Wireless. And I became the European Escalation Manager for Cable and Wireless in there. My
goodness me. What a journey so far, but it's not over yet, because we're going to come on to the most exciting part, which is that was to last for a time, but then you were going to move again to your sort of final destination. I think that would bring us up to date, and we'll talk about how you help people in that. So, tell us, you're with Cable and Wireless. Something triggered you to go and leave now. So tell us about that.
Burnout did. All
right. Okay.
I got it within 2 years. The workload was that heavy. The travel was that heavy. And it just couldn't, I was stressed. and I just had a burnout, and I wished that on nobody. It was absolutely horrible. You basically function like a robot.
Right.
And it destroys your relationships, your health, your like a total burnout. There was days I didn't even shower anymore because like it was just, you know, you were so engaged with work and work and work only that you forget to live.
Wow.
So there was redundancies going at the time.
Yeah.
I forced my way into it. I was ignored twice. And then until the vice president of Cable and Wireless Worldwide came over to Shannon, tried to convince me to stay. I went to Dirty Nelly's with him. We had a few pints, and he said, "Well, I'll let you go."
Right.
And then I ended up 4 years with Extravision, running Extravision stores.
Probably with the day, yes.
Yes, there I got a stress attack. See the pattern?
Wow.
Inside the store. And then it was time to do something for myself. It was the training manager of Extravision, Bill Hallidan, I'll never forget his name, who gave me a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
Which puts me in touch with coaching. I knew coaching from sports. I looked up coaching for business and life. I came across the Irish Life Coach Institute, interviewed with them, and did a full year diploma course with them in 2007.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So I suppose that takes us to where we are today and what you're doing. So let's you know, for the last 5 minutes of the show, let's just talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you found your home eventually.
Yes. Yeah.
And tell me what it's meant to you, and then let's talk about how you help people and what the business model is.
What it's meant to me is like through the course and through running my business as a coach, I had another perspective on life. One where it's okay to have a life while making a living. One where it's okay to take the day off, but it's also okay to work the bank holiday if you feel like it. One which made me discover that I have all the strengths and the values and the beliefs in me to do the things I'm passionate about, just the things I love doing, and that you can actually make a living by just doing things you love doing. Right? Whether that's running, whether that's listening to music, that's coaching people, whether that's mentoring people, whether that's speaking in public, whether that's doing a radio show, so my life is now full with just things I love doing, and I'm still making a living out of it. So and the fact that that's okay is what it means to me. And
I think that's something that a lot of people haven't yet discovered, that there is a different way out there. You find a passion that you have and pursue it. And with sort of education so accessible these days, it can be a reality.
Oh no, it's there for everyone. Because everyone has their own passions, everyone has their own particular strengths, everyone has their own belief sets and values. It's just becoming aware of them and then acting on them. And that's the 2 steps. And everyone has that within them. Every single human being, yes.
I mean, from the course of your business life, have you discovered people stuck in a rut and how to get them out of that? Maybe they're just in a sort of, I won't say a dead end job, but a job that is dead end for them because they feel there's nothing more to contribute. But there's a safe piece, a pay packet at the end of each week.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So there's a whole way to connect people like that back is to connect them back to themselves first. Not tell them they have to leave the job. Don't tell them that their job is dead end. Don't tell them that kind of thing. This is your life right now. Do you want to keep doing that? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, I wish you all the best of luck. Maybe I can help you to make it more efficient. If the answer is no, I would like to look at something different. It's just leave them doing the job they are and then explore. Who really are you? What is it that you're passionate about, right? Not attaching money or a job to that, just step by step, reconnecting people with themselves before you start talking about actions. I think that's really important.
And that's interesting because people are people of habit, and it's very hard to break those routines with them. So, you know, if you were talking to our audience, have you any suggestions around that?
Yes. Don't try and change your habit. Try and cultivate another habit.
Right.
And the one you want to get rid of will disappear automatically. So when you're eating sweets at night and you want to eat healthy, eat a banana before you eat the sweets, and eventually you end up not eating sweets because the banana's enough.
Right.
That is my strategy when I work with people. create new habits before you start forcing the old ones out the door.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, really, because because people struggle with habits, and they might make a small change, but then suddenly they're back on, they've fallen off the wagon again with those habits.
Yes. So I'm not the one that's going to tell you you can't eat the biscuits anymore. I'm just going to suggest eating a banana, and then the biscuits will take care of themselves. And that's kind of the same with everything. I was a smoker, and then I started running. In the first 2 years I was running, I was still smoking, but the smoking just disappeared after a while, that kind of way. So yeah.
Yeah, a good coughing bout will help you with that.
Yeah, it would, Alec, it would.
Well, I suppose then you're a great believer in the power of sort of activity in terms of sort of mental health as well.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. So for instance, I give you one tip. One thing that I tell my customers to do, all my clients and even my friends do, is I write down the 3 best things that happened to me that day.
Right.
Even if you had a really bad week or you had a really bad day, right? There is 3 good things you can find about that day. Right? I finally got through to that person. Someone called me. I had a cup of hot chocolate with marshmallows on top. Whatever it is, right? Sure. There is 3 good things about your day. Someone reached out to help me, whatever it is. And in the beginning, some people find that hard. They find 1 or 2 things. But before, they were thinking of no good things that happened to them in their day. If you create a habit of writing down 3 things, I do it in a journal, in my diary. I have a happiness diary. If I write down those 3 things, do you know how many things that is at the end of the year? I'm good at maths. 1,095 good things happen to you every year. Wow. If I had told you 5 minutes ago more than 1,000 good things happen to you in a year, you would have looked square at me.
Sure. And this is all about the gratitude side of your life and appreciating it. And I suppose in the sort of 30 seconds we've left, you might tell people where they can find out more about you. And we'll conclude the interview there, but I think that's a very positive message we're finishing on.
Oh, thank you. So my company is called The Intentional Academy. So you can find it back on theintentionalacademy.ie. But I'm a very unique surname. So it's the easiest way to find me is Patrick Mercie, Mercie, on all social media.
Fantastic. That's a fantastic way to finish the show. I really appreciate that, Patrick. I think there's a lot of lessons for our audience out there. Thank you to Patrick Mercie for coming into the Union Business Studio. Thanks also to Sam on Sound. The podcast of today's show will be available on dublincityfm.ie from tomorrow. Thank you for your company. And please remember to join me, Alec Drew, again next week at the same time, 1 o'clock on 103.2 Dublin City FM for another edition of You and Your Business.